last on Everdark. The repercussions of Balthazar revealing himself as Eiros are starting to trickle in, but Daemon has decided to keep the excitement going and to invade Solace. Everdark, Episode 70. Risk.
This is insane!
Caemorn hissed. He looked around at the other vampires, trying to see reason in one of their eyes. He saw amusement. He saw slight approbation, but none of them seemed willing to contradict King Daemon.
Artemis has countless spies within Solace. It will be a miracle if I get through the gate.
So your idea of helping our cause is to hide within the middle of our group and hope that no one notices?
Arceus asked with a frown.
You are the head of the Order. You need to use that for some common good for once.
Only you believe that the Order works for the common good.
Caemorn snapped at the confessor. Fiona was standing beside Arceus, her old mentor, and Caemorn believed the one person in existence that she truly loved. Too bad it seemed that Arceus loved Balthazar more. Not that Fiona would do anything about it. She had existed at the edges of everything, absent passion, trying to pretend that she had no emotions. But she couldn't help staying within Arceus's orbit once she had a chance again. Was she a true believer in King Daemon? Or had she finally found a big enough reason to flee to Arceus's side once more?
The people who believe in the faith believe in the Order. Whatever jaded view you have is not shared by the majority of vampires.
Arceus argued in that earnest way of his that had always annoyed Caemorn, but had that same majority swooning.
I had plenty of parishioners come to me and...
You were a mere confessor. I am the preceptor. I can assure you that the masses are content to believe the petty lies. None of them would want to think too deeply. They only do as I say because of the power I wield. The power that I wielded.
Caemorn amended quickly with a grimace. Artemis had undoubtedly stripped him of that.
I am sure that everyone on the council has been contacted by Artemis, and he has turned them against me. The word will have already filtered down to those in the head positions of the Order that I am not to be trusted.
And it's not like your personality won you any followers, Balthazar muttered from beside Daemon. It seemed that Balthazar and Daemon were friends. They seemed so very easy together. It annoyed him to see it. Balthazar always made friends easily. He had hoped that Daemon would be more discerning and not fall under the Eiros' sway.
But we are just getting to know one another. He will see my worth. I may not be charming. I may not be easy, but I am useful.
Yet Caemorn's head still snapped towards his old nemesis.
And all you've ever done, Balthazar, is run on your personality. Your charm, wide as an ocean, but deep as a puddle.
Balthazar laughed. That's more than you'll ever have, Caemorn.
I am not an Eiros, or the Eiros. I cannot charm people. I am what I am. Giving speeches, no matter how good the subject matter, is unlikely to move people. You should send Balthazar in to use his mind control magic on them.
Caemorn suggested.
That does make more sense.
Because the moment that Balthazar appears, people will attack.
Arceus answered.
Even he cannot instantly take control of all their minds. Not in the Spire by any event. You know quite well how our powers are muted.
Yes, well, some ability is better than none.
Caemorn muttered. Indeed. My king, truthfully, we would be better off if he wasn't known to be on our side. Balthazar spoke to Daemon, who stood by the fireplace, one arm curled around Julian's broad shoulders. There are more people who hate him than even tolerate him. Him singing your praises is, well, he's toxic. Christian, who Caemorn admitted that he rather liked, said gently,
Surely there are some people who hold respect for him. He must have skills to have risen to preceptor. I don't believe that Callie is behind everything he's accomplished.
Christian looked down at the diamond that contained the soul that had evidently been stalking him.
He's skilled. He could be useful.
Indeed, I do have skills, but I'm telling you all that Artemis has seeded the entirety of the Order with people loyal to him.
Caemorn insisted.
Sending me inside on my own to try and argue your case will only lead to my second death. I will speak on your behalf once we all go into Solace together. I will support you entirely.
Daemon had been stroking Julian's cheek with his free hand, and had not even looked at him during his speech, simply murmured, "You are a strong vampire, Caemorn. You will get a chance to prove it tonight." Caemorn's lips flattened.
I think you are sending me to my second death. No matter how strong I am one vampire.
"With 2 werewolves. You aren't leaving those things here." Balthazar flicked a finger at Farn and Tarun that were crouched by a tray of beef the staff had put together for them.
Yes, well, even so, a mob against 3 is still a mob.
He looked Daemon boldly in the eye.
I am not a coward, and I am strong. But if you do not want my help, let me know now so that I might prepare myself.
Daemon turned to look at him then. Those red eyes, the same as he had seen in the Night Hag and the other creatures in the Everdark, were fixed upon him, and he found himself going numb. The urge to drop to his knees and bow his head until his forehead touched the floor filled him, but he forced himself to remain upright, and there was an amused smile on the Vampire King's face. "Admit what you were truly afraid of, Caemorn," Daemon said simply. "That no one respects you. That no one truly sees you as preceptor, but in name only. Strip that title away, and you are not the leader of the Order or of anything. Then what Arceus could do with simple words, you could not do with your 2 werewolves or your powerful weapons. That since there is the scent of blood in the water, that none will come to your aid. Those are the things that scare you." Caemorn went rigid. He could not hide the hurt and defensiveness he felt. King Daemon was not saying these things unkindly, but as simple facts, and that made them devastating.
I did not rise through the ranks without making some enemies. Friendships are weakness. See what happened to Arceus because of his friendship with Balthazar. He is in exile.
I think you should look at Fiona. She ended up serving in the Order, but it wasn't at all what you thought it was. She came here, chose exile so that she could have some friends.
Julian pointed out with a scowl.
You are a Boy Scout. You would think that. But the people you admire so much have been on the outside. Absent Daemon's appearance, they would still be on the outside.
Caemorn pointed out. "Better that than on the inside like you and Callie's marionette," Balthazar said, crossing his arms over his chest. Christian patted his shoulder, but then turned towards Caemorn.
You're here too now, Caemorn. I think that you're taking this assignment the wrong way.
Going back to Solace, on my own, through the gate, and asking people to follow the Vampire King.
Caemorn's eyebrows rose.
Am I missing something?
Fiona told us that many of the people who are at Solace now have been impressed into the Order. They were forced to be a part of it. They feel no great loyalty to it yet. They're doing what they must because they've been kicked out of their houses, correct?
Christian asked. Caemorn really did like Christian. Unlike his best friend, he looked at things logically and understood that reason topped emotion every day.
That is true.
They have no one and nothing. I imagine that they're seeking someplace to belong, something to define them. The Order hasn't yet gotten their loyalty, as this is new, isn't it? I imagine many of them are looking for solutions and someplace to truly belong.
Christian pointed out.
You don't have to inspire them with pretty speeches. You just have to lay out the facts that appeal to you about joining Daemon. If they want to be on the right side of this, they need to join the king. Your master's betrayal is what brought you here. They've been betrayed by their masters too. Their whole houses abandoned them. Tell them that the only person they owe loyalty to is the one that wants them, King Daemon.
Caemorn tapped his lower lip.
But I would be denigrating my own power. I am preceptor of the Order.
Julian rolled his eyes.
Oh, please. You're the ruler of nothing. Right now, you're a simple vampire who has no friends, no master, no house, and you have a price on your head. You're asking us for help. Do you really think that you're going to remain preceptor of the Order after this?
Caemorn said nothing. He still had a few other things up his sleeve to bargain with. He wanted to actually be more than a preceptor. He wanted a seat at the royal table, but it was too soon to ask for those things right now.
It's just that those who know me will have a hard time believing that I am urging them to serve another.
Caemorn partially lied. Christian argued back.
That is why it is so compelling if this message is coming from you. I'm betting that everyone knows that you look out for your best interest. If they see that you, of all people, are willing to serve Daemon, then there must be something to it.
There was logic in this. The only problem was that Caemorn was certain that the moment he stepped through the gate, that there would be plenty of knives going for his throat and every other tender spot.
I'll go with you,
Sophia said, suddenly getting down from her perch on the edge of the couch and walking over to him. She had on a pretty powder blue baby doll dress that made her look even more like a child. If there was anyone who would be less intimidating than Sophia, he couldn't imagine it. He was truly going to die.
Have you ever wondered about the business side of Wraith Rain? Or what Wraith does in her spare time? Or if the food in Dragon's Reign is actually real? The Wraith Rain team has a new podcast series, cheesily called The Wraith Rain Insider, where we talk about these kinds of backstage topics. If you're interested, you can find episodes of Wraith Rain Insider among the normal story content on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast platforms. And you can find it in its own playlist on YouTube. Our topics come directly from our readers and listeners. If you want us to discuss anything, just let us know in the comments.
While I welcome any assistance,
Caemorn said carefully.
you are not known to be a fighter, Sophia, though
He got nothing further out, as Sophia had suddenly jumped up from the floor, grabbed the front of his coat and dragged him down to her eye level. He felt something terribly sharp against his carotid. She was smiling still. Farn and Tarun looked over at them, saw it was Sophia. She smiled and called them good wolfies, and they simply turned back to their food, leaving him at her mercy.
traitors.
He muttered under his breath, though he was sure with their werewolf hearing that they heard him. The twitching ears confirmed it. They would regret taking Sophia's side.
Now you cannot be mad with the good wolfies. Though you have treated them badly, they know that I can keep you safer than they can.
Sophia said.
When you can see what's going to happen, you won't have to be much of a fighter. You just have to be ready at the very right moment.
Sophia? Balthazar chuckled. Now that was badass. She turned her head and smiled at Balthazar winningly.
I am sure that everything I do tonight will earn me the 2 kitties that you promised me.
The smile left Balthazar's face and he tugged at his collar. We will discuss in the future, a far future time, any pets that will—
Thank you so much for the kitties, Balthazar. I'll name one Brown and the other Sugar.
She grinned so broadly that her eyes shut. Caemorn guffawed behind one hand. Clearly, Balthazar had a thing about cats, and so did Sophia, but in diametrically opposite ways, and Balthazar was losing this battle. Caemorn, though, swallowed when she drew up away from his throat a wicked-looking diamond-shaped blade. She slipped it somewhere in the folds of her dress and smiled at him again.
We will go together to Solace, and you will get Seer out of the dark place you are holding her.
He grimaced when they saw the state that Seer was in. When Seer told them about how she had been treated, things might go even worse for him. That was why he had kept things back. He needed bargaining chips before Daemon realized just how useful he could be.
So it really is true?
Fiona asked, almost faintly.
You really have Seer locked up somewhere in the spire?
Caemorn straightened up and smoothed the hands down the front of his jacket.
And I thought you were not as naive as Arceus, but I rather think that you're more so, Fiona. I wasn't the one who put her there.
No, you were the one who kept her there.
Sophia said coldly.
Of course I kept her there.
He snapped.
She is an immortal. Those used to be considered bad, remember? She was to tell us when King Daemon came back, but it seems that she was playing us for fools all along. She was working the levers in order to thwart us this entire time.
He said the last to Daemon, who responded, Seer knew all along what was going to happen. Everything, from the war to my return, was planned. I wish she had told me. I did not know how badly she would suffer, how badly all of you would suffer without my presence.
Would your decision have changed if you would have known the consequences of going to sleep?
Caemorn asked, which got him a sharp look from Balthazar and Arceus. They wouldn't dare talk to the king on his own level. But to his surprise and respect, Daemon answered, Most likely not. I was heartsick and in desperate need for my fledgling. Daemon once more caressed Julian's cheek with the back of his hand. Many of you have fledglings, but even for those of you who don't, I assure you that as time passes, the urge to take one is overwhelming. Once you've chosen someone, imagine that fledgling dying in your arms. Imagine that not happening 1 time, or 10, or 100, but close to 1,000. Daemon's gaze went bleak, and he pulled Julian closer to him. He felt a stab of something go through him. He could have been that fledgling. He should have been. He looked at Julian beneath his lashes. Julian was pretty and heroic and passionate, but he was a child, hardly an appropriate consort for the king.
If it will truly aid your majesty for me to risk myself, I will,
Caemorn said with a half bow. He figured if Sophia was going, then they had a good chance to survive. He doubted she would let herself be killed when she was so close to finding her mistress, so best to be thought brave.
So the plan is that I go through the gate here with Sophia and gather people in the square to tell them of your good intentions. Fiona will teleport you, King Daemon, and certain others into Solace out of sight. Hopefully, my words will assure the populace not to attack you on sight. In the meantime, we will have left the gate open for our allies to come in.
That sounds about right, Balthazar said dryly. Do not worry too much about the muting of your powers, Iros. I am not affected in the same way. Besides, I have a plan beyond mind control, Daemon said. This must be the plan that Daemon was fearful about Julian knowing or seeing. Caemorn would not be turned off by whatever the vampire king would do in order to secure his rule. Caemorn understood how ruthless one had to be. Julian was just a boy. Lisette, who had been quiet up until this point, watching and listening to everything as always, stood up then and smiled at everyone as if she was going to give a recital.
We are going to my compound, yes? To use the gate there to Solace?
Cars are waiting for us outside to take us there. Balthazar gestured towards the front door. Daemon, however, shook his head and said, Fiona, you will teleport us. The others will get in the cars and travel that way. Who constitutes us? Balthazar asked.
I know that I am a part of that us,
Julian said with a meaningful look at the vampire king. Of course you are, as are Balthazar, Arceus, and Christian. The others will come through the gate. Daemon smiled at them. Fiona looked a little rattled.
You are so certain that I can phase through with so many to Solace, with the gate closed and the...
Arceus put a hand on her shoulder, stopping the flood of uncertainty.
You can do this, Fiona. I have no doubt about it.
Caemorn almost rolled his eyes. It was especially hard not to, especially when she beamed up at the bearded face of the confessor.
If we're ready to go...
Caemorn lifted an eyebrow. You were the one stalling, Balthazar reminded him with a shake of his head.
And now I'm not,
Caemorn remarked coolly.
We will meet you in Solace then, King Daemon,
Lisette said with a bow of her head.
I look forward to seeing what the vampire king can do.
And then you will wish to never see it again, Daemon responded evenly. Lisette looked at him carefully from under her dark lashes, but she bowed again and headed towards the front door and the cars. All of House Ravenscroft was going, as were all of the Callie vampires who allied with them, not to mention a bunch of Mirror. It was a motley crew, but it was already a larger group than Caemorn had expected. King Daemon attracted people to him like moths to a flame. That attraction would grow, especially if he took down Solace with this mysterious plan of his. Caemorn smiled mirthlessly. For once, he would be on the opposite side of his master, and it would be the side that would suit him best. He would be out from under Artemis's thumb. He would be free, and he would be with the vampire he had always felt should have been his master. Everything was working out. He hoped it would continue to do so.
Everyone, gather around and hold hands.
Fiona stuck out her own hands to her sides, taking one of Arceus's in her right hand and Julian's in her left. The rest of them each formed a link until they were a giant circle. Even Tarn and Farun had to join the circle, with people awkwardly touching their clawed paws.
Here we go.
Caemorn hated teleporting. There was always this stomach-sinking sensation as they moved from one point in space to another. But it was over in a moment, and they were now in the Calais House gate to Solace. Caemorn went up to the gate and cut his thumb with a small blade. He used his blood to draw the ancient symbols that should unlock the gate and held his breath. Had his master gotten ahead of him and barred the way? But the red letters suddenly glowed, then faded, and the gate appeared. Sophia stepped up to his side, swinging her childlike body. She looked like she was going on an outing, rather than on an attempted coup. She grinned up at him and took his hand, which he found odd but did not reject her. Tarn and Farun stepped up beside them. Caemorn turned and looked back at King Daemon and said,
I will do all I can to prepare the people for your coming.
Daemon smiled back at him. His expression, though, was somehow unreadable. Tonight, Caemorn, you will find out just how strong you are, and you will earn your place among us. Caemorn frowned slightly, but he sensed no lie in the Vampire King's words, so he simply bowed once more and turned towards the gate. As one, all four of them stepped through it. Like with the teleportation, there was this sense of movement, but it was more pleasant rather than sickening. The gate opened into the very square that he was to gather the people in and convince them of King Daemon's rightful place as their leader. If he had thought he would need to actually gather the people to meet him there, he was incorrect. The square was completely filled. Hundreds of silver eyes were turned upon him, and Caemorn felt a sickening twist of dread. A murmur became a shout, which was, "Get him! Get the traitor! Death to Caemorn!" Join us next time for episode 71, Natural Order.
You know what's really great? Our sponsors. Who are you guys? Without your support, we wouldn't be able to produce this multi-actor podcast and any of our upcoming projects. Some Everdark related, some not Everdark related. Because of you, we don't have to spend all of our time on social media or rely on mysterious algorithms that change from week to week. Instead, we can simply produce the best content we can and keep the new episodes coming every week. If you'd like to support us, the best way is to become a member of wraithrain.com. That is my serial website with everything but the Amazon exclusive stuff published on it. Not only do you get the uncut and uninterrupted episodes of Everdark, but you can read over 115 chapters of the sequel, Everdark Academy, and all my other written gay romantic stories, both ongoing and completed. Follow the link in the notes to sign up.
The Everdark podcast by Ex Aratare is performed by Edward Fox, Adam Riley, Jay Thillis, Bruno Devant, Kelly Michaels, and Hannah Hart, with Liz Gentle as Seer. Edited by Matthew Prince, continuity by Adrielle Wiggins. Everdark is produced by Wraith Rain Publishing in association with Her Grace Reed Studios. Copyright 2022 by Wraith Rain Publishing.